Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Just want to do a little video about diesel engine glow plugs. Okay, we've got a few here. Now we've said it before about the 1kz ones. They do break off, so you see these tips here. Alright. See this one, you can see it's been off. Obviously it broke off in the engine, it's all black, and this one, as soon as we dropped it on the bench, see how it's different colour, so it probably fell off as we sort of dropped it onto the bench usually, right? What they should look like is this. So I'll put two in the picture so you can compare the pair. Right, so I'll grab a few others out for you, give you something to have a look at. I'll move these ones out of the way for a minute. These are the 1kd ones, we'll get to those in a minute. That's what this video is mainly about, the 1kd ones, but you need to see, you know, what these are meant to look like. That we might as well touch on the 1kzs, and you know, other engines, all very similar stuff. Things need to be replaced or and done right and touched or not touched sort of thing, you know what I mean? So, you know, you can see they deteriorate. That one, the tip's about to break off, you know. So see the colour of it. So on the 1kzs, we recommend changing those every 100,000 Ks to help prevent that tip breaking. Get to it before it breaks. It's not going to stop it from breaking. Well, it is if it's out of the car, but yeah, we've got a heap more there. It just goes on. But if you know the tip breaks off, you can be lucky and it's just going to blow out, or you can be unlucky. You know, it could obviously damage. You know, it could hit going out under the valve. It could, you know, it could be stuck on the head or the piston or bang around in there for ages, which we've seen plenty of those. You see tips gone. Happens all the time. You know what I mean? So just goes on. But so look, they're the 1kz glow plugs. All right, so we'll just wash those out the way a little bit. These are the 1kd glow plugs. They're a little bit different, right? So that's what they look like in comparison. Compare the pair, if you like. And basically, just got to give you some important information about those and the things that can happen if you do and don't change those, right? So a little bit different in comparison. Haven't got the part number here for you to buy those. But what I want to point out is, I'm not sure which one of these it was. I think one of these was one of the ones that was kind of getting stuck. It was only 200 and something thousand Ks. It might have been that one because it's got a bit of grit in the thread, whatever. But, so we'll focus on these ones at the moment. Okay, notice, I can't break the tip off, right? These have done, what have these done? Oh, I think they got checked at, we had them out at something like 250,000 Ks, right? And might have had them out again at around 300,000. They got replaced, so they've done about 300,000 Ks, right? Now, so what happens is we don't see the tips breaking off, which is why it's not part of our, you know, we sell the injector kits obviously so that you get only the correct injectors, it being genuine, fresh and real brand new ones, not Reman and Chinese copies and other brands or whatever, because you know we only recommend brand new genuine, and that's all we're going to supply to you regardless of what boxes, how we've packed them and whatever. Watch all the videos and you'll understand that a little bit better. Each to their own what they want to do. If you want to put Reman in, or happy to have half price Chinese copies or whatever the case may be, that's fine as well. We're just here for the people that want the good stuff. So it's not part of our injector kit. It's not even an optional extra with our injector kit, glow plugs, simply because we don't see any issues. We haven't had anyone report any tips, you know, breaking off or even looking like, you know, I'm just having a look at these myself. I know you want to have a closer look. Let me see if I can put on if that works for you. Too close maybe. You can have a look for yourself. They're all around. You can see those, can't you? They look pretty good, you know, in comparison to, you know, you take some, you know, let's look at the comparison, you know, see the difference? If I give that a bit of a tap on the bench, it's probably going to bust off. But anyway, so we don't see issues with these. Look, there has been a couple of people around Australia. We get a lot of people contact us with, you know, feeding back information and trying to get help and that sort of thing. A couple of people reckon they have seen these tips break off. So, look, I don't know if they're confused about what engine it is or if there's other matters at play there, really high Ks or what. So there has, over the years, there has been a couple of people, but it's one of those things, I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. I see a lot of these things and I don't see that. So, but look, I just want to put it out there that there is a couple of people that have mentioned it. So if you want to change your glow plugs, fair enough. But I just want to warn you of what can happen if you do. And this is what we've seen, and also what we've heard reported to us from other people, other workshops, DIYs, whoever it is doing their own thing, and they have issues. Of course, they come back to me. And so moving forward, basically what happens is, you know, you crack it loose and then it goes tight again. It doesn't want to come out, and you can lube it up and you can work it back and forth and do all your magic, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes you've got a you know, a ring of alloy in the threads here, you know, sort of bring them back into the picture, you know, up along here you might just have one ring. It could have more, it could get worse. It might be just a bit of a, if you can get in there, you might have to pull off. Look, you're going to have the E-jar and everything off to get in there anyway, to get to these glow plugs. They're a real pain, you know, which is the time to do them, I suppose, is when you do your injectors and your E-jar. If you're going to do them, that's the time to do them. What I'm saying is I don't think it's an issue. We haven't heard of one engine that's failed, and we don't see this happening. On the 1KZs, we see it on just about every engine that comes in, and there is engines that fail because of it, and we've seen photos and engines that's happened with, right? So it's a matter of whether it's real or not. So look, let's say it's early days. I mean, 1KDs have been around since 2005, so it's 14 years. So you think we'd know more as far if there was a lot of glow plugs falling apart. So you got to be cautious of that. If you take your glow plugs out and you end up with a lot of alloy in your head, there has been people that have had to pull the head off and obviously send it away and get it all repaired. It's going to cost you. Then you start going, you know, where does it end? You know what I mean? Like, so you got to look at the percentage of the problems versus the cost of the repair or prevention and that sort of thing. So you got to do some sums. Well, it's got to be a value for money job, this thing. Even replacing injectors, I think that's worthwhile because they're the cause of cracked pistons, wrong combustion. You know, once you eliminate chips and tunes and all those sorts of things, and things like, I mean, obviously the fuel contamination, damaging injectors quickly is another issue, but that's fairly rare. Generally, if people do the right thing with injectors, what we're seeing is they don't have problems. So we believe that's worth doing, but, you know, there's got to be a limit on it. You know, how far do you go? You know, pulling intakes off and heads off. You know, you're just about doing a rebuild, you know. So if you've got to go and do all that work as prevention, well, then what was the point? Because you've done the work anyway. I hope you get what I mean, right? So, you know, these glow plugs, easy to change, mate. You know, you can do them yourself. Not a big job, you know, taking the intercooler off. Never had an issue getting those. Let's say it's never going to happen, but I've never had an issue getting these glow plugs out with 1KZ engines, right? So we're back to those again. Like I said, similar stuff with other diesel engines. You just need to be careful of those things and do your research specifically on that specific engine off people that work on those all the time. They're going to have hopefully your most reliable information. But as you know, you've got to be careful who you trust with this stuff, because a lot of people can look like they've got experience and have been doing the wrong things for decades or generations, you know what I mean, in the family, still doing the wrong thing. But so what would I do? 1KD, I wouldn't touch them at this stage. I wouldn't touch the glow plugs. It's not worth it, because you could end up doing half an engine rebuild because you went for a prevention. Because why did you want to change them? Well, the engine's starting fine. Doesn't need them. The engine's going to start without those. All right, that's what we've seen. So why change them? So you're going to spend a bit of money to get them. You're going to go to the effort. It's probably going to work out most of the time, but when it doesn't, you're going to go, oh, I wish I never touched them. So just have a think about it, because you're doing it to prevent these tips breaking off, right? So you're going to spend a bit of money to prevent something that generally doesn't happen anyway, that could end up in you. So it's going to cause more problems than it solves. So I hope you're really with me on that one. Do you know what I mean? So just think that through, right? So on these, you're going to spend bugger all. They're easy to change. It's just not really going to be an issue. It needs to be done because it is prevention. On these, it's not really prevention. It's going to cost you money, and it could cause a big problem, half an engine rebuild. So I hope you get my, you know, thinking on that, and that's how I roll. It's a bit of the old Irish way, whatever, of thinking, whatever, but whatever. That's what it is. That's the deal with glow plugs. I don't know what else I can tell you, you know. Torque spec, I think they're all 13 Newton meters, these, both sets. Well, I can't remember, it's been a while. I'm getting old, you know. 1KZ, yeah, I think they're 13, and I think, I'll tell you, give you another little tip while I rode as well. I think these might be 13 as well, but look, check it out. I'm sure thereabouts will work. It's got to, look, you don't have to, you know, use torque wrenches or just go by hand. It's just a little tapered seat here, right? That's what seals it, that tapered seat there. It's not, you don't need to put thread tape, you don't need to go super tight. It's just a little taper there, right? Simple. Okay, it needs to be clean, obviously. If you've got a rock of soot or something sitting on that seat, it's not going to tighten down properly. If there's all soot and crap in the thread, so make sure it's clean, vac it out, blow it out, whatever you want to do. That's what we do. We vac first, and then the compressed air's got more pressure, so blowing sort of works better, but not before we vac. I don't want to get any dirt, sand, and debris that are going to come out. I've got a really good, got an old Milo vacuum there, turned up on high, with a special fitting with a little hose on the end, and suck it all out. Do you want me to do that again? Right, suck it all out, and then, like I said, the air pressure is going to blow something that's embedded a little bit deeper. Just make sure it's clean. That's the key thing. And the other one is, I think the torque spec for these little things that go on the end here, right? So you got your little, there's a little insulator there, and then there's a nut, and then you got your nut that the rail goes in between there, right, to power them up. Now, I think it's something like 4 Newton meters. Don't do it, okay? This is my advice. Don't do it, okay? We've got a nice little Warren and Brown torque wrench. It does 4 Newton meters spot on. And with some brands, they crack anyway at 4 Newton meters, I can tell you from experience, okay? So, and of course, because it's manufacturer's torque specifications, they'll get replaced under warranty, but I don't like replacing 2 out of 4 every time I do a set of injectors. So there's certain brands we do and don't use. They're the ones we use for the 1KZs, okay? And haven't had an issue with that. But my advice is, I'm just going to get another little tool out. Don't put a ratchet. Don't put a ratchet on them. This isn't the right size socket. This is what you use. You just use like a screwdriver type adapter with a socket on it, and you just lightly nip it, right? There's a little plastic insulator that goes over the top that clips on, and that stops it from coming undone anyway. Just the lightest nip. It's not coming undone, but with that on there, it kind of like pushes straight on over here, and it's screwed. You just nip it up, screw it tight. It's kind of like your lock nut. Okay, so don't over tighten those. That's a big key, important thing. Look, you can put never sees on if you like. I'm a bit undecided about these things. I've seen different things over the years. Like I said, I've been around decades seeing this sort of thing, and there's different products, so I don't want to go into it too much. We're already up to 12 minutes. I'm going to end this one soon, but there is different products. You know, you can use grease, different types of grease. You can use, you know, Penrite. We use Penrite copperoos on things. There's other brands you can use. You know, nickel anti-seize and all sorts of things. I have seen it where the product dries up and it becomes like dry grit, and it almost I think it's harder to get it out sometimes. So you just got to be careful what product you use. I actually like grease, but then when you put grease on a thread, look, from factory, they don't put anything on there and usually they come out, okay? I've found it where people have put a product on there and they're harder to get out. So this is what I mean. There's products out there that you go, well, let's use this. You think you're doing the right thing. Doesn't always work out, and I can't really tell you what the best recommendation is. You got to allow for lubrication on the thread with your torque specs, so just keep that in mind. I don't think it's going to make much difference, and for this, if it was a couple Newton meters over, it's probably not going to matter if it ended up being, you know, 14 or 15 from lubrication. For that, I'd probably, just trying to give you my best advice here. Look, don't hold me to it really, okay? I probably would say put copperoos on those, okay? The Penrite copperoos on those threads, I think, is the go. It's more spark plugs and stuff like that. I don't know. Like I said, look, I've got all this experience and I'm trying to put it all into one bit of advice for you. It's not going to work out. So we'll leave it at that. Everything that I've said's all good. Just the lubrication, wet or dry part, you need to make a decision yourself, because it can go either way, all right? Once again, I hope that saved you from pulling your glow plugs out and wrecking your head or not, or whatever, your decision. I'll just give you the information. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn the bell on so you don't miss the next important video. We're always going to have more information coming your way as soon as we've got time to do so. Thanks for watching. See ya.